When a powerful black CEO was wrongly pulled off a plane, she didn't just walk away, she changed the entire airline industry with $5 billion in her hands. Dana Mitchell was a name not many people outside the business world knew, but inside boardrooms, she was powerful. She was a calm, smart, and confident woman who had worked hard for everything she had. She had built her tech company, Ascendtech. From the ground up, people respected her not just because she was rich or successful, but because she was kind, focused, and always made others feel important. But she also knew that even with all her achievements, some people only saw her skin color when they looked at her. It was a warm Monday morning when Dana arrived at the airport. She was dressed in a sharp gray suit, her hair tied neatly, and her face calm like always. She had an important meeting to attend in New York, one that could open new doors for her company. It was not just any meeting, it was an investor summit, where big names from the tech world were coming. Dana's company had recently been valued at over $1 billion, and she was one of the main speakers. She was excited but also focused. Her assistant had booked her a first-class seat, so she could rest and prepare her speech during the flight. When Dana reached the check-in counter, everything went smoothly. The airline staff scanned her ticket, checked her ID, and even smiled. Politely, she passed through security, grabbed a bottle of water, and walked toward the gate. She was early, as always. She liked having time to sit, think, and plan. When the gate opened, she was among the first aboard. The flight attendant at the door gave her a brief look, a quick smile, and Dana stepped onto the plane. She found her seat, 2A, next to the window. The cabin was quiet, and a few other first-class passengers were settling in. Dana placed her laptop bag under the seat, pulled out her phone, and began going through her presentation. She was in her zone. Nothing seemed wrong. But as she scrolled through her notes, she noticed the same flight attendant passing by her seat more than once, giving her strange looks. Dana tried to ignore it. She had dealt with silent judgment before, in meetings, in hotels, even in stores where people assumed she didn't belong, but she had learned to brush it off. After about 10 minutes, the flight attendant returned again, this time with a polite but firm smile. "Ma'am, can I see your boarding pass, please?" she asked. Dana looked up, surprised. "Of course," she replied, calmly handing over the digital pass on her phone. The flight attendant looked at it for a few seconds, frowned slightly, and then walked away without saying anything. Dana felt a strange discomfort settle in her chest. She looked out the window, trying to shake it off. But minutes later, 2 uniformed security officers boarded the plane. Everyone turned to look. One of them walked directly toward Dana. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us. Please bring your belongings." Dana blinked. "Is there a problem? We just need to verify something. It won't take long." She glanced around. All eyes were on her. Passengers whispered. Someone pulled out a phone. Dana stood up slowly, picked up her bag, and followed them off the plane. Her heels clicked softly on the jet bridge floor as she walked beside the 2 men. Outside, they stopped. One officer looked serious. "Can we see some identification, please?" Dana handed him her ID. "What's your reason for being in first class?" he asked bluntly. Dana took a deep breath. "I purchased a first-class ticket. I'm flying to New York for a business meeting." He looked at the ID, then at her, then at the phone still in his hand. "We received a report that someone might be in the wrong seat." Dana's voice stayed calm, though her heart was racing. "Who reported that?" The officer didn't answer. After a moment, he nodded slowly. "All right, everything checks out. Sorry for the inconvenience. The damage had already been done." Dana was told her original seat was no longer available. The flight had to leave on time, and her place had been given to someone else. She was rebooked for a later flight, 5 hours later, in business class. No apology, no explanation, no offer of help. She sat down in the waiting area, her hands shaking slightly. She wasn't just upset. She felt humiliated. She had done nothing wrong. She had followed every rule. She had shown her ticket, her ID, but still. She had been pulled off a plane in front of strangers, treated like a criminal, and then pushed aside like she didn't matter as she sat there staring at the floor. memories came rushing back. Memories of being followed in stores when she was a teenager, of being asked if she was really the boss when she met with partners, of being told you're so well-spoken like it was a surprise. This wasn't just about a seat on a plane. It was about something deeper. The summit she was going to had already started. Her speaking time was gone. She would arrive late and tired. She knew her team would try to fix things, but the opportunity was slipping away. Still, Dana didn't cry. She didn't scream. She sat quietly, thinking. She opened her laptop again. Not to work on her presentation, but to type a long, detailed note one she would not send yet. She began listing everything that had happened. Every word, every step. She wanted a record. People passed by. Some gave her sympathetic looks. One man even whispered, "I saw what they did." That was wrong. But no one really did anything. When her next flight finally boarded, Dana didn't feel like a powerful CEO anymore. She felt like just another person who had been judged before she could even speak. On the plane, she closed her eyes and tried to rest, but her mind wouldn't stop. A part of her felt tired. It's tired of always having to prove herself. It's tired of having to smile and be polite when she was treated unfairly. But another part of her was slowly waking up. A strong, quiet part that remembered who she really was. By the time she landed in New York, she had made a decision. She wouldn't tell the media. She wouldn't make noise. Not yet. She would do what she had always done. Think smart, act strong, and use the power she had. It's not to destroy, but to teach a lesson they would never forget. She looked out the car window as the city lights passed by. Somewhere inside her, something was building, not anger, not revenge. Power. And this time, she would use it differently. Dana reached her hotel room in New York feeling heavy. The city was alive outside her window, cars honking, people laughing, lights flashing from giant screens. But inside her, everything felt quiet and cold. She had missed her speaking session. At the Investor Summit, months of preparation, her team's hard work, and the excitement of sharing her company's success. It's gone because someone didn't believe she belonged in first class. She sat on the edge of the hotel bed, still in her travel clothes. Her phone buzzed with messages from her assistant and team members. They were sorry. They were angry. They told her the investors were understanding and wanted to reschedule. But Dana barely replied. Her mind was somewhere else. She kept thinking about the flight attendant's eyes, the doubt in them. The way the security officer asked why she was sitting in first class, as if she had stolen her seat. The way no one stopped it, no one questioned it. Dana closed her eyes and breathed slowly. She had learned long ago not to react with fire, not to raise her voice or make emotional decisions. People expected black women to get angry. She had spent her life being the opposite, composed, in control. But this time, something was different. It wasn't just personal anymore. This was bigger. She knew it. The next morning, she returned home. Her office was on the top floor of her company's headquarters, a sleek glass building with a view of the city skyline. Her staff greeted her warmly, but they could see something had changed in her. She didn't make small talk. She didn't smile much. She went straight to her office and asked for privacy. Once alone, she sat at her desk and opened her laptop. She reread the note she had started in the airport, the one where she wrote everything that happened. Then she added more. The times she had been mistaken for an assistant during business meetings. The moments when hotel staff asked her if she was really staying in a suite. The job interviews where men called her aggressive for simply sharing her ideas. These weren't just memories. They were patterns. She picked up her phone and made a call. Not to a lawyer. Not to the press. She called Marcus Dillard, her oldest business partner and close friend. Marcus was more than just a businessman. He was a quiet giant in the finance world. Together, Dana and Marcus were part of a private investment group that managed over $10 billion in assets. And part of that, Dana remembered clearly, was invested in the airline that had kicked her off the plane. "Marcus," she said when he answered, "we need to talk." Within a few hours, Marcus arrived at her office. He could tell something was wrong. Dana told him everything step by step. Marcus listened without interrupting. When she finished, he sat back and folded his arms. "They don't know who you are," he said quietly. "They didn't care," Dana replied. "And now I'm not sure if I want to keep caring either." "What do you want to do?" "I don't. Want to make noise for attention?" "I want to make change," she said. "But I also want them to understand who they messed with." Over the next few days, Dana gathered her team in secret. A small group of trusted people, her legal advisor, her investment director, her communications expert, and Marcus. She showed them documents, records, numbers. They were all shocked to see that the airline's parent company had over $5 billion in combined investment support from Dana's fund. That meant Dana had real influence not just as a CEO, but as someone holding a large piece of their financial future. Her legal advisor suggested filing a formal complaint. Her PR expert suggested going public. But Dana shook her head. "No, not yet. We asked them first. We give them the chance to do the right thing." They drafted a respectful letter. It explained the incident in detail. It asked for an internal investigation, a formal apology, and a plan to prevent such profiling in the future. Dana signed the letter, and it was sent directly to the airline's corporate board and top executives. Then they waited. Days passed. No reply. Not even a short message to say, "We received your letter." The airline said nothing. Dana was not surprised, but she was disappointed. She had hoped they would see her not as a threat, but as a partner in change. Instead, they ignored her completely. She began reviewing reports from other passengers, black men and women who had been questioned for being in first class, told to move, or treated unfairly. Her team found stories online, in newspapers, and even in complaint files buried in aviation forums. There was a clear pattern. And now, Dana had proof. While she stayed quiet publicly, her mind kept working. She thought about every investor she had met who believed in her company. Every young black girl who looked up to her as a role model. Every person who had ever been silenced or embarrassed but had no power to speak up. She wasn't going to stay quiet for them. Meanwhile, something strange started to happen on the internet. A small tweet appeared from a junior employee at a private equity firm. It read, "Just heard a black CEO got kicked off a flight because security didn't believe she belonged in first class. Airline doesn't know they just messed with the wrong woman. This one controls billions. Stay tuned." The tweet spread fast. People began guessing who the CEO might be. News outlets picked up the story, trying to confirm the details. Dana's name didn't appear yet, but she knew it was only a matter of time. In her office, Dana kept working. She had meetings with lawyers, with her fund's leadership, and with business allies. Some wanted to protect their own relationships with the airline, but most were furious for her. They told her, "If you walk away from this investment, we'll support it." Dana was surprised by the strength of their support. She realized she wasn't alone. She wasn't just one woman against a big corporation. She was a woman standing at the top of a mountain she had climbed herself with an army of people who trusted her. So she made her decision. "We gave them time," she said to her team. "They ignored it. Now we respond." The final meeting she held was with the leaders of her investment group. It was a long discussion. People asked hard questions. They debated. But at the end of the meeting, the vote was clear. The fund would officially pull out all $5 billion invested in the airline's parent company unless the airline took full responsibility. Dana gave them a deadline, 7 days. After that, the deal would be done. The withdrawal would be public. She didn't feel angry. She felt clear. This wasn't revenge. This was consequence. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't stormed out. She had done what she always did. Used her brain, her voice, and her power. As the deadline approached, more people started talking online. Journalists reached out for comments. Dana said nothing. Her team stayed quiet. Her silence made people even more curious. But she didn't care. The clock was ticking. One evening, as she sat by her window watching the city lights again, Dana thought about everything that had happened. She wasn't the same person who had walked onto that plane. That woman had been tired, hopeful, and trusting. She was sharper, stronger, and more certain. She had always known how to build things. Now she was ready to break something that needed to be broken. and when it happened, the whole world would hear it. The day had finally arrived when Dana Mitchell stood before the group of decision-makers who controlled billions of dollars in investments. These weren't ordinary people. They were experts, fund managers, analysts, and board members who had built financial empires with quiet moves and strong partnerships. Dana wasn't nervous. She was focused. She stood in a room filled with powerful people who respected her not just because of her success, but because of her intelligence, discipline, and leadership. Today, she was asking them to take a bold step to walk away from a $5 billion investment. Because of what happened to her, she didn't start by talking about herself. She started with facts. She spoke calmly and clearly, her voice steady. She told them about the reports, the data, the many incidents of racial profiling by the airline. She showed them stories of passengers who had been mistreated, ignored, or embarrassed just because of how they looked. She didn't show emotion, but her words were powerful. She then told them what happened to her, how she had boarded the plane with a valid first-class ticket, how the flight attendant had questioned her, how security had asked her to leave in front of everyone, how she was treated like she didn't belong even after proving her identity. There was silence in the room. Marcus, her longtime business partner, stepped forward next. She didn't ask for this to happen, he said. She didn't go to the media. She came to us. She gave them a chance to respond. They didn't even answer her letter. It's not one word. That silence speaks louder than anything. One board member asked, "Are we sure pulling out won't damage our reputation too? Won't people say we're being emotional?" Dana looked him in the eyes and answered, "We're not reacting emotionally. We're acting with purpose. This isn't about revenge. It's about responsibility. If we stay silent, we become part of the problem." Another member, a woman in her 50s, nodded slowly. "I've worked with Dana for years. If she says it's time, then I trust her judgment. We didn't make our name by following the crowd. We made it by standing for something." After hours of discussion, the vote was taken. Unanimous. The $5 billion investment would be pulled from the airline's parent company if they did not respond within the next 7 days. Not with excuses, not with silence, but with a real apology. And a plan for change. Dana didn't celebrate. She didn't smile. She just felt steady. This was the result of careful work, not emotion. She had stayed quiet, stayed calm, and now her voice had created a wave the airline couldn't ignore. While this decision was made behind closed doors, outside, the world was growing curious. The tweet from the junior equity analyst had gone viral. People were trying to guess which airline it was and who the CEO might be. Some thought it was a rumor. Others said it was true. Reporters reached out to Dana's company for statements. Dana still said nothing. She wasn't ready. Not yet. But pressure on the airline was building fast. At first, the airline's leadership ignored the noise. They thought it would pass, like many online stories do. Their media team released a short, vague statement. "We are proud of our service and commitment to all customers. No apology." No action. But then something changed. Another story came out. A black businessman in Atlanta spoke publicly about being asked to show his ticket 3 times during a flight, even though he was sitting in first class. A woman from Chicago posted a video of her being questioned by airline staff while boarding early. Slowly, a picture began to form. It wasn't just Dana's story, it was many stories, and then someone leaked an internal email. It showed that the airline security team had received extra training to watch for suspicious behavior in premium seating. That phrase, suspicious behavior, made people furious. What did that mean? Was simply being black in first class? Suspicious. Now the pressure exploded. News networks began to dig deeper. Online forums filled with discussions. Activists began calling for boycotts. Public figures posted tweets saying, "We stand with the CEO." Even celebrities joined in, without knowing Dana's name. They were responding to the story and what it represented. Inside Dana's office, her team watched it all carefully. The world was starting to turn in her direction, even though she hadn't said a word yet. Then Dana made a decision. It was time. She called a national newspaper and gave them an exclusive interview. Not flashy, not loud, just honest. She told them the story, step by step, like she had told her board. She didn't use the airline's name, but everyone already knew who it was. She didn't attack anyone personally. She didn't cry. She spoke with calm strength. She explained how powerful people often believe they can act without consequences. But in today's world, silence is a choice. And power can be used to protect. It's not just profit. The interview was published with a simple headline. CEO speaks, why I'm pulling $5 billion from a major airline. The article went viral in ours. Dana's name was everywhere. People praised her not just for what she said, but for how she said it. Calm, powerful, professional. She wasn't angry, she was right. She had the strength to act, not just speak. The airline's stock dropped within a day. Investors panicked. Analysts discussed the fallout on television. The company's leadership went into emergency meetings. For the first time, they realized they were in real trouble. They called Dana's team and asked for a meeting. Dana refused. They had their chance. She said, instead, she posted a second message, a short open letter on her company's website. It read, I was asked to leave a flight because I didn't look like someone who belonged in first class. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't fight. I walked away. But now I'm using my voice not for myself, but for everyone who's ever been. Made to feel small when they were more than enough. Respect is not a luxury. It's a right. The message was shared millions of times. People wrote thank you notes. Young entrepreneurs called her a role model. Journalists called her the quiet storm. Politicians and business leaders quoted her. She didn't just speak out. She acted, and that action had real weight. Meanwhile, the airline rushed to respond. They issued a long apology. They said they were deeply sorry. They promised diversity training and new procedures. But it was too late. Dana didn't respond. Instead, she met with her team and made her next move. We're not just pulling our investment, she said. We're moving it somewhere better, she announced. Funding for a new airline startup, a small company focused on fair service, equal treatment, and inclusive hiring. She wasn't just walking away from the problem. She was creating a better solution. Investors followed her. Customers praised her. The old airline struggled to recover. And Dana, she kept moving forward, calm and steady as ever. She hadn't yelled. She hadn't fought. She had simply stood in her truth and let her actions speak louder than anything else. And the world listened. Dana Mitchell's decision to take action had shaken the very foundations of the airline industry. What started as a personal experience had turned into a public call for change, one that no one could ignore. The moment she stepped forward, the world began paying attention. People everywhere were talking about the incident, about discrimination, and about power. The first few days after Dana's open letter was published were electric. Social media exploded with messages of support. Thousands of people shared their own stories of discrimination on airplanes, at airports, and even in hotels and restaurants. Many were similar to Dana's experience, quiet moments of being judged, questioned, or treated unfairly simply because of their skin color. News outlets, both national and international, began covering the story nonstop. Television anchors invited experts to discuss racial profiling and systemic bias in the travel industry. Newspapers ran special reports on diversity issues in major corporations. Talk shows invited passengers and employees to share what they had witnessed. But the real pressure was on the airline. Its stock price fell sharply as investors reacted to Dana's fund pulling $5 billion in investment. The airline's leadership faced intense scrutiny. Board meetings were held in secret, emergency calls were made, and strategies were drawn up. To handle the crisis, the airline's CEO, a man who had always been known for calm leadership, found himself under fire like never before. At first, the airline tried to control the damage with carefully worded statements. They said they were committed to diversity and deeply sorry for any discomfort. But these words felt hollow to many. They sounded like a script, not a true apology. The airline's customers began to protest. Social media campaigns urged people to boycott flights, Some loyal passengers canceled their tickets. Airports saw small demonstrations with signs calling for fairness and equality. Dana watched all this unfold from her office. She knew this was just the beginning. Change would not happen overnight. But she also knew something important. This was no longer just about her. It was about everyone who had been made to feel invisible or less than because of who they were. As pressure mounted, other black executives and leaders began to come forward. They shared their own stories of being profiled, questioned, or dismissed. In business and travel, their voices added weight to the movement Dana had started. The airline responded by promising new diversity training programs for staff, hiring more people of color into leadership positions, and reviewing their security policies. They announced the formation of a special committee to investigate the incidents of discrimination, but many critics said these measures were too little, too late. They pointed out that real change meant transforming the company's culture, not just its policies. They wanted transparency, accountability, and ongoing commitment. Meanwhile, Dana focused on her own company and investments. She knew that real power came not just from calling out injustice, but from building something better. She poured resources into launching a new aviation startup, one designed to prioritize fairness, respect, and inclusion at every level. Her new company hired a diverse team. They trained employees in empathy and cultural awareness. They designed customer experiences that made everyone feel valued. They promised transparency about their progress and challenges. Investors were eager to support Dana's new venture, and he saw it as a beacon of hope in an industry often criticized for its lack of diversity. The startup's early flights received praise for their friendly service and welcoming atmosphere. Dana's leadership became a model for others. She spoke at conferences about how businesses could combine profit with purpose. She mentored young entrepreneurs, especially women and people of color, encouraging them to aim high and lead with integrity. Back at the airline, the crisis continued. Shareholders demanded updates. The board held more meetings, but many felt the company was moving too slowly. Some executives resigned under pressure. The company's reputation took a long time to recover. The story of Dana Mitchell and the airline became a case study in business schools and leadership seminars. It showed how quiet strength and strategic action could challenge powerful systems. It proved that when people use their influence wisely, they can create meaningful change. Throughout it all, Dana remained humble. She never sought the spotlight for herself. She always emphasized the importance of dignity, respect, and fairness for all. Her journey inspired countless people around the world to stand up against injustice in their own lives. In the end, Dana's experience on that flight became more than just a personal story. It became a symbol, a reminder that change begins with courage and that power, when used for good, can transform entire industries and societies. The airline would eventually learn that ignoring the problem only made it worse, and Dana would prove that true leadership is about lifting others up, not tearing them down. Her quiet courage turned into a loud, lasting legacy. Dana Mitchell's story did not end with the airline's apology or the withdrawal of $5 billion in investments. Instead, it marked the beginning of a new chapter, one that would leave a lasting impact on the business world and beyond. Her actions showed that true power comes not only from wealth, but from courage, intelligence, and the desire to make things better for others. After the intense weeks of public attention, protests, and financial shakeups, Dana focused on her company Ascentech and the new aviation startup she helped create. She knew that to bring real change, she had to build something different, something that respected every person, no matter their background. Her new airline was small at first, but it quickly gained attention for its unique approach. Instead of just focusing on profits, the company invested heavily in training its staff to treat every passenger with kindness and fairness. They hired diverse teams that represented different cultures, races, and backgrounds. Their message was clear: everyone deserves respect and dignity. Dana also made sure the company's leadership was diverse. She believed that change starts at the top, where decisions are made. By surrounding herself with people who shared her vision of equality, She ensured the airline would never repeat the mistakes of the past. Her work attracted investors who wanted to be part of something meaningful. These were people who cared about social responsibility, not just financial returns. Dana's leadership style inspired other CEOs to rethink their own company's cultures and policies. At the same time, Dana became a mentor and role model for many young entrepreneurs, especially women and people of color. She spoke openly about the challenges she faced, not to complain, but to encourage others to keep pushing forward. She reminded them that their voice mattered and that they could create change, even in industries dominated by others. Schools and universities invited Dana to give talks. She shared her story, emphasizing how important it is to stand up for yourself with grace and determination. Her message was powerful. Success is not just about money or titles. It's about using your influence to help others and create a better world. Meanwhile, the airline that had once humiliated her struggled to recover. Their new diversity programs were slow to take effect. Many customers continued to choose Dana's startup for their travel needs. The company's reputation was damaged, and some executives resigned as pressure mounted for deeper changes. Dana didn't take pleasure in their difficulties. Instead, she focused on the future. She knew that lasting change doesn't happen overnight. It requires patience, hard work, and constant effort. Her quiet strength inspired others to take similar stands. More companies began examining their policies on diversity and inclusion. Some started to invest in minority-owned businesses. Others created programs to support employees from underrepresented groups. Dana's story also reached beyond the business world. Activists and community leaders used her example to show how systemic racism can be challenged through peaceful but firm actions. Her experience became a symbol of hope for many who had felt powerless for too long, despite all the attention. Dana remained humble. She never let success change who she was. She continued to work hard, stay focused, and treat everyone with respect. Her journey proved that sometimes the most powerful way to fight injustice is not with anger or loud protests, but with quiet determination, intelligence, and strategic action. By using her position wisely, Dana changed not only an airline, but the way people think about power, respect, and equality. In the end, Dana Mitchell left behind more than a business empire. She left a legacy, a reminder that when courage meets opportunity, it can break down walls and build bridges for a better tomorrow. Her story will continue to inspire generations, showing that no matter where you come from or what obstacles you face, you have the power to make a difference. And sometimes, the greatest victories come from the calmest hearts.